Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
That rage in women is very, very masculine. That's why I think rage in women and CPTSD is on the rise. Even when you and I are different, very different people, but and I make jokes about you being from Jersey. I always say New York, we think about it, and Jersey, they do it. So, but that you know, when I used to have a dream, and this is making the unconscious conscious. I used to have a dream. I'll tell you about two different dreams. One was one of my siblings, my sibling family tree. If I drew it, and I drew, you know, who married, what happened to the kids. I have a really good sense of all that stuff, which I think is important because many of us came from larger families. You came from a family of 4. I came from a family of 6. This stuff is very relevant. But I had to become male to survive in my family. Therefore, when a woman, and I'm hedging now because I know I said I was going to start on a dream, but when a woman in my family crossed over to the dark side and abused me, that was really pivotal to learn that women were capable of that too. Because I could say, hey, that's how men are, right? But now I'm a woman, and I can't behave the way this woman does. So in my dream, I had cut her up and buried her across the 6 acres of my property. So in the dream, I could never move because I was concerned her body parts would be found. And then I had a dream when my ex had, there's a lot going on with women, but one woman in particular who he got involved with a sociopathic woman. That wasn't my word. It was the therapist at the time who can't diagnose, hadn't met her, but I was telling her what was going on, and she was getting very frustrated with me that I didn't know what it was. And I said, well, she's like, that type of person. I said, what type of person? She said, a sociopath. And I was like, oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So here this very antisocial person got involved with the very antisocial person. You can imagine what those two did. Level of cruelty, just, I'm not going there here, but I eventually had a dream where she had given me a roofies and I was running away from her, and it was snowing, and the snow was piling up, and I know I have a roofie in me, and she caught up to me, bit my chest, and is looking up at me, and I'm looking left to right for a witness. I'm like, nope, nobody sees this. This fucking asshole has got her teeth in me on a sidewalk in the snow, and I'm going out because I've been roofied. And my unconscious was storing so much of this stuff, and that speaks to why I finally had the dissociative episode that cleared all that stuff out. And now why, and I'm, follow the bouncing balls, and now why, after that dissociative episode, had smaller things happen, but I'm doing it much more consciously. Oh, I'm sedating rage. Oh, I shoved it. I make jokes about food, but it was booze for a while, and then it when I can't dissociate on something that harms me, I'll dissociate on a bag of Swedish fish. Not that that doesn't harm me, but it's a lot lesser evil than what I've worked through. And substance is such a part of this cycle. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but Ramadi brought it up a few times. Substance abuse, and I had, my siblings for the most part were all users. They encouraged my use, and then I married someone who abused substance, and I knew this stuff. Like Kyle, who was talking to Ramadi, was like, all the stuff that we tolerate, we know on some level, but he called it denial. I wasn't in denial. It was just the way it was. How could I say I was in denial when it was so normalized? And then
I hear you.
Well, it's you and I make fun of our habits when we self-sabotage, and that's fine. I appreciate the level, because neither of us, we only hurt ourselves.
Right.
But
Right.
it's I know that what you're going through with your kid is similar but different, and again, you tell me to go fuck myself when I say something wrong, but he had just a much more overt situation, but is much more bonded, whereas my boys had much more covert. And how bonded they are, I can't even speak to, because we don't go there anymore. I brought up in the first episode about, and I told you about it, that unknown caller type of thing, where the daughter is still choosing to have a relationship with her mom, understands her mom is sick and stuff. I would say that's, was your son's response. I know he's got a problem, but he still is bonded via a relationship. And I don't think you would ever not want him to be bonded, but the reality is his father's not going to change. And that's just heartbreaking.
Right. He thinks he's controlling his controller, but it's all still control and not healthy. Like, it doesn't, it's just still unhealthy. Like, he thinks he's got the upper hand, and thinks he deserves things, and he's playing them like a fiddle, but he's being played like a fiddle. But, like, nobody should be playing a fucking fiddle. That's the story. Like, stop. He's just repeating the cycle. And it's, like, when my child finally kind of came to me and, said, like, I see it now. I get it now. I see what's been happening. This was like when he was in high school, and it, like, he could have knocked me over with a feather. Didn't expect that over dinner that night. 2.5 hour conversation. That he said he realized a bunch of stuff, but it's, and that, one thing I learned is that when I have children, I know how not to be a father. Like, I know how not to, blah, 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 treat my children. But it's like, he's not even getting, like, he doesn't see the big picture, like, and what is it? Is it, is it shame? Is it, who who knows? Who knows what he's like experiencing, you know? Um, but
Well, I would imagine I said it before, and I don't know if I said it with you or if I said it prior to speaking with you. It's like you just think that person's like, you either have to accept, you either have to accept that that person's never going to own up, or you accept that they possibly could, and that might keep you around. I don't know. For me, I know people aren't going to change anymore. Um, but if I was,
do you mean those 74-year-old people? Is that what you're talking about? Not going to
yeah,
change
I mean,
anymore.
but I
Still going to
separated.
act like 12-year-olds.
Well, I separated. I don't think I said what the catalyst was there. The catalyst there, I didn't share it. I shared it with you privately. I didn't. The catalyst of that, I would, as many people do, is I would handle it as it occurred. When he would be very, very racist around my child, I there was a situation where my son was eating with a fork on his leather couch, and he was flipping out that the fork was gonna ruin the supple leather. And I looked at him. I said, "Well, I'll tell you something. If you make another racist comment, I'm going after your couch with a fork." That's how I would handle him. And my humor, it was not hard, as humorous as my family was, and I is. It was not hard to one up them. This they found annoying, and they finally, like my brothers would either concede to it or tell me how fucked up I am. That's, that's the two ways they would handle it. Which, by the way, still happens, which with people in general, which is fine. I got the fucked up humor from fucked up situations. But the thing that put me over the edge, where I couldn't laugh or make a joke, was when he, in conjunction with another person that he totally influences, committed a hate crime. And I was listening to him on the phone describe it. I don't remember if he was arrested or the police were just at his house and met him at the door. I don't remember the situation, but he was laughing and enjoyed it so very much. I just was like, all right, that's it. That was it. And I didn't make it public that I was separating from my siblings till like 2017, 2018. And that the therapist had put in, he didn't tell me to leave or get out. He would just comment, "That's a wedding you don't belong at. You're a family of choice person." That's how he put into my head that I needed to get away from them.
Right.
Which again, worked, but could have used the crash course there. Because it ended up being that I separated, and then my boundaries were ridiculous because I wanted to still keep them involved with my mom. I didn't want anybody, again, oh my God, I never made that correlation.
Bring it, sister. Bring it.
When I was trying to figure out how to get out of my marriage with my kids, I didn't want them to suffer for a decision I made. I didn't want my mother to suffer for a decision I was making. But the abuse was too great and I had to get out. And then they obviously flipped and, they did everything they can to blame me for not having a relationship with their mother. And that's fine. That I can carry. Like, there's an amazing amount that I can carry as a result of having these people. They were never able to convince me, I was...
No, you were scapegoated because it was like, oh, now we don't have to deal with,
Oh, yeah.
her health and her this and her that and her care and her this and her that, like.
Well,
It's like,
they never did
oh,
anyway.
right, right.
That's
But
the
then,
thing. That's the interesting part about this type of abuse. They don't do what normal people do, and then when you give them a reason, oh, well, that's why we don't do it. You know,
right, right.
you know.
I mean, I've known you for how many years, and like, I can count on 3 fingers how many times, like, your family was, your siblings were with your mom, you know, when I was around in your,
Oh,
since
I
we've been friends.
they were so cruel to her. She was the fawn freeze type too. I mean, mom and I were a lot alike, but mom would fawn her sons. She would get more irritated with her girls over her sons, as many women of that generation did. They fawned the males, you know. It and I think I've said it here once, but I once asked her with one particular sibling why I didn't say fawn to her, but I asked her why she would just apologize to him and apologize to him and apologize. Ma, why didn't you pick up the phone? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? My mom had dementia. She couldn't answer her own phone, and he would just the first few lines out of her mouth would be, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I just asked her once, because others had abandoned her, I asked her once why she tolerated it, and she said, because then he won't talk to me.
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, oh, yeah.
I remember that specific time. I was actually in your mom's room, and we had just, it's when her legs had given out, or she was having some very physical issue. And, the phone, was like one of her kids on the phone. And she was like, oh, I'm great. I'm fine. And I'm looking at her going, you just fell out of your shit. Like, like it was just so obvious that she just was like, oh, please, like,
She couldn't ask for help. She couldn't ask for a gift certificate.
no,
She was
no,
totally abused, but I'm not going to get that out of them. I'm not going to get me out of them, let alone the way they treated her.
right. Well, send us a list of things that mom needs, and then we'll send,
Oh,
we'll ship them to your house or something. It's like,
nope, nobody took initiative.
no,
Nope, no,
no, not at
and it
all.
was really, really, and that stuff I used to laugh at too. I mean, mom used to unload on me what was wrong with them, and that's how I came to understand how she, and this is a stretch, but I ended up doing the same thing. How people are so negative, within my family, it was not uncommon to throw the others under the bus. It was
Yep.
like commonplace. And it was my ex who actually told me how badly my family talked about me behind my back. And it took me forever to make the connection that he was doing it too.
Right, right,
Like, hello, I really am
right.
alone in this room. And that's the weird part about this. I also said this in, I don't know, sometime this week. I said that the gaslighting is and the catfishing, all gaslighting is being catfished out in the open by people that are supposed to love and care about you. And I don't know why. I had an ungodly, decent level of self-confidence. It didn't mean they didn't fuck with my esteem. It didn't mean they didn't fuck with my worth. But it is really going to be hard to convince me that, number one, that I'm not sane, and number two, that I don't do the best I can for others.
Right.
And I don't know where that came from, but I would say my mother was the same way. You know? Man, I miss her. And then there's
I just pictured us sitting at the end of the bar, like chatting with her, and she was something.
you were the one. I had gone somewhere and you were with her, and I came home and you had a cat that ate the canary look on your face. And you were so proud to be the one that she first told the Johnny Fucker Faster joke to.
Oh my God, yes. Is that the one I recorded? I made the recording of?
I don't remember. And you actually had me going, my mother didn't do that. And then I was like, oh, well, apparently she accessed some deep recess in her mind and came up with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and and that's so funny. All of this stuff about trauma and abuse, and my previous conversations about dissociation and leading to dementia, it just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Even talking about this today, that's the effect it's going to have on me. Is I'm not going to want to remember it. I am going to dissociate from it, and it is going to affect my memory. One of my friends who talks about, like I talk about the effect on my memory all this has had, and that person is in a different school of thought because she feels she can access things that she forgets, and I can't. I have to have the memory. The good with the bad comes, because I can't, very often my brain can't distinguish just the bad or just the good. They tend to come together. And I wonder, like because of my view on this stuff, if I'm a candidate for dementia. I found out that I don't have the variant for Alzheimer's.
Really?
Yeah, I did do that. I was curious because my grandmother had it, my mother had it.
Right. I
So.
need to do that as well. Since my mother and my grandmother, her mother, both
But
suffered.
dementia's a horse of a different color, man. I think it's just from, it's long-term dissociation. I still don't. I remember things like where this particular brother was concerned. I remember being, and I know I'm all over the place, and you're following me fine. I remember this particular when I was, and I know how old I was because I can picture the environment. So I was 9, and I knew one thing that was going on that broke the law, and I knew another thing that was going on that was just a very inappropriate thing to relay to a 9-year-old about his beliefs about another person.
Yes.
And
I know where you are with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And when you're, I mean, how could I even rationalize? Like, it's just so sad that he wanted me to rationalize something so sick.
Yeah. At your age.
At that age.
At that age. Yep.
But yeah, and when you say about the
It was
empathy,
a scare tactic, I guess.
I don't know about that. I just think it's an indoctrination thing to abuse. Because I remember, and I'm all over the place. I remember when I met my ex's favorite uncle. Very quickly, I know why you're laughing, because of the nickname he gave himself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the stories that you've told about him. So.
Well, one of the words in the nick, and it's so weird because I have this persona and I love playing characters and la 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 la. But some of us do it for fun, some of us do it, and it's not fun. But he had this nickname for himself, and it involved the word genius. And I always thought it was because he was a boob. And then I had to figure out, he really does think he's a genius. Okay, sorry, oops. But that same man, when I met him, very soon into meeting him, I knew that he didn't think his wife was intelligent, but she'd make a good wife and mother. Soon after that, I found out that he had had an affair, and it wasn't something they wanted to share with their kids. And I'm like, why is this man telling me this stuff? Like, I don't want.
Wasn't he like chatting up somebody's girlfriend at some point?
Yes. And he was chatting up one of my son's girlfriends. I pointed out how strange it was, not to the table, just to me. Yep. And he very quickly, as I've heard many men do, but I have daughters. I'm like, but I have daughters isn't the reason to harass other women. That one I've heard a lot, especially being in finance and in the dating world. I was always really amazed that somebody with daughters could be so inappropriate. I mean, I've actually said I'm grateful I had sons because I don't know if I had daughters, if I could say half the fucking shit that comes out of my mouth. At least with sons, and we'll never know. We'll never know. And I won't know if female ejaculation is genetic either. God damn it. Maybe it skips a generation. Be staring at a granddaughter, waiting.
Oh boy.
See, that's what I mean. But that's we have finished another episode. So do you want to stay on with me, or you want to go take care of Dad?
I got some chores. I got a few chores, but it's always a pleasure.
I will talk to you soon, my dear.
Okay.
All right.
Love you.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.